Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Here are our friends who are blessed by Avlu, male friends, wherever they are. Always be healthy and under the protection of Avlu subhanahu wa ta'ala. Amin. The story of Rasulullah's example and the story of the Prophet's companions are important to know because they are role models for Muslims. As Muslims, it is appropriate for us to emulate the noble qualities and behavior of the Prophet Muhammad. Like the story I will tell this time. There is a story of a friend of the Prophet who was very touching. Because he chose to fight jihad with the Prophet Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Avlu made him a martyr and was awaited by the angels. His name was Julaybib radiallahu anhu. That's what they called him. His name shows his physical characteristics of being dwarf and short. The name Julaybib is an unusual and incomplete name. He himself didn't want this name, and neither did his parents. Julaybib was born into the world without knowing who his father and mother were apart from that. People also don't know or don't want to know about Julaybib's lineage. For the people of Yathrib, Medina, having no race and no tribe is a great disgrace. Julaybib's shabby physical appearance and daily life are the reasons why other people are reluctant to get close to him. His face looked dark, short, stooped, black and poor. His rags were worn, his clothes were shabby, his feet were cracked and bare. There is no shelter, only sleeping on hand pillows. Covered with sand and gravel, there are no items, just drinks from hand taken from the public pool. Abu Barza, the leader of the Banu Aslam, even said about Julaybib, never let Julaybib come between you, for the sake of Allah. If he dares to do that, I will do something terrible to him. That was Julaybib's situation at that time. But if Allah wants to send his mercy, no creature can prevent it. Julaybib was always in the front row in prayer and jihad, even though almost everyone still treats him as if he doesn't exist. This is not the case with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Julaybib, who lived in the Shafa of the Nabawi Mosque, was greeted one day by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Julaybib, so gently Rasulullah greeted Julaybib. Aren't you married? Who is the person who wants to marry his daughter to me? Ya Rasulullah, said Julaybib smiling. There is no impression of self-pity or blaming God's fate in his words or expressions. Rasulullah smiled. Maybe none of the parents are happy with Julaybib. However, when he met Julaybib the next day, Rasulullah asked the same thing again. Julaybib, aren't you married? And Julaybib answered with the same answer up to 3 times. 3 days in a row, and on the 3rd day, Rasulullah took Julaybib's hand and took him to one of the houses of the leaders of the Ansar. I want to marry your daughter. Rasulullah said to the owner of the house, how beautiful and what a blessing, answered the host with a beaming face. Because he thought the Prophet was his future son-in-law, Ya Rasulullah. This is truly the light that dispels the darkness from our house. But not for me, said Rasulullah. I'm asking for your daughter for Julaybib, said Rasulullah. Julaybib. The girl's father almost screamed. Yes, for Julaybib, said Rasulullah. I have to ask my wife's opinion about this, said the girl's father. His wife answered, is that possible? Julaybib has a shabby face, no reputation, no rank and no wealth. For the sake of Allah, no, our daughter will never marry Julaybib. The conversation didn't last long. The princess said from behind the curtain, who asked, the father and mother also explained, are you going to refuse Rasulullah's request? For the sake of Allah, send me to him. And for the sake of Allah, because Rasulullah asked, it will not bring destruction and loss to me, said the girl. The pious girl then read the verse, which means, and it is not appropriate for believing men and believing women. If Allah and his messenger have decreed a decree, there will be for them another choice regarding their affairs. And whoever disobeys Allah and his messenger, then he has indeed gone astray, truly gone astray. Quran Surah Al-Ahzab verse 36. And the apostle bowed his head and prayed for the pious girl. Ya bestow goodness upon him in abundance full of blessings. Don't make his life miserable and problematic. Said the beautiful prayer of Rasulullah, so the prayer of the Rasulullah was true. Not long after that, Allah gave him a way out. It turns out that togetherness in the world is not destined for too long. Even though in the world the wife was pious and devout, the angels had missed her in heaven for too long. Julaybib is more deserving of heaven than a world that is unfriendly to him. When he was martyred on the battlefield, the Prophet was so lost. At the end of the battle, Rasulullah asked, "Did you lose anyone?" "No, Rasulullah." The friends answered in unison, "It seems that Julaybib is indeed insignificant among them. Have you lost anyone?" asked Rasulullah again. The Prophet asked again. This time his face turned red. "No, Rasulullah." This time some answered with anxiety. Some people looked to the right and left. Rasulullah sighed. "But I lost Julaybib," he said. The friends realized, "Look for Julaybib." So the noble Julaybib was found. He was killed with injuries all over his body and face. Around his body, there were the bodies of 7 enemies he had killed. The Prophet with his own hand shrouded Julaybib. He prayed for him and prayed, "Ya Allah, he is part of me and I am part of him." Said the Prophet, that is the story of Julaybib, who ended his life as a martyr while helping Rasulullah and his friends. His choice of jihad and longing for martyrdom received a beautiful reward from Allah. The appearance is not as beautiful as the nobles. The wealth is not as much as that of the kings. But the angels of heaven are fighting for Julaybib's figure. It would be right for us to conclude that piety is the most valuable treasure in the sight of Allah, because wealth, appearance, and position in the world will disappear once death comes to its owner. Indeed, Allah does not look at your appearance or wealth. However, Allah only looks at your hearts and your deeds. H.R. Muslim. This hadith is in line with one of Allah's words in the Quran, which means, indeed, the noblest person in the sight of Allah is the most devout person among you. Q.S. Al-Hujrat 13. Friends of the Herifar who are blessed by Allah. As a form of love for the Prophet Muhammad, we Muslims can recite Shulawat. The Prophet's Shulawat are both praise and prayer. That is worth a reward. Hopefully we will be among the people who will receive intercession from Rasulullah. Amin. Ya Rabbal Alamin. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.